Okay, you guys, welcome to a new episode in the Money, Business, and the Universe podcast. And today I'm absolutely thrilled and grateful for my today's guest, Danielle Gardner. Danny, it's so cool that you are here in my podcast today.
Well, I am excited to be here and I'm excited to talk about these things that we have planned to talk about today.
Yeah, and these things are absolutely cool. So, you guys, let me just tell you something about Danny. Danny is a mentor for highly sensitive entrepreneurs, as I am, and she has very deep knowledge in the topic human design, what I also find really, really interesting. And today she takes us into her world of business, what she calls herself the quiet marketing. And what I found so interesting about all the topics and offerings Danny offers is that she does marketing her own way and in a way that fits to highly sensitive persons as I am. And I was immediately attracted to this. And I'm so happy that she will give us today insights about how she does marketing and understands marketing and business in a way that fits to her and not to the strategies that people say you have to do it like this and that and whatever, but in a very individual way. And I'm so curious what you have to tell us today. So as I said before, as a highly sensitive person and projector 1-3, which is my human design profile, but we will come to this later, I felt immediately attracted to your offerings. And could you just give us some insights? What does highly sensitive person mean to you, or what is that for you, a highly sensitive person?
Yeah, well, I always sort of like to say this first because maybe a lot of people can relate to this. I remember coming across the term highly sensitive person. I remember reading about it, and my reaction was this: all right, interesting. They feel things deeply. That's really interesting. Moving on.
Yeah.
Did not think this had anything to do with me, right? The reason why is, you read the description, and when you're like, the main thing that stood out for me is the feel things deeply. Now, when you feel the way you feel, it's just normal. I never thought, oh my God, I feel things so deeply. It was only in discovering, and it was after I'd found the highly sensitive person thing, like description, that I remember somehow being in conversations. And I remember one particular conversation, and I'm like, right. So when this thing happens, you don't feel, this, no. And when this happens, you don't feel, no. And I remember going through all these things thinking, are you serious? You don't feel anything? So that was like when the penny dropped for me. It was like, right. Okay. So it was quite fascinating to me. It was almost like everyone else is the abnormal one.
Yeah.
Because like, how can you not feel anything?
Yeah.
So I guess that was my sort of introduction into the highly sensitive person realm. And I guess what it means for me is, I realize now, I guess, in comparison with the most people, it's like I'm taking everything in, and I'm taking it all in deeply, although I'm not really aware of that. It's just me, but I think most people somehow they don't take things in, right? It's a real high sensitivity to being rushed. That's one of the big things that I've noticed, being hurried. That's when my overwhelm goes, when I feel rushed in any sense, in whether it be my husband telling me like, quick, I've got to get going or something,
Yeah.
or, the business thing, whatever. What else? Yeah, a huge need for physical and mental space.
Yeah.
So, um, I have really a lot of alone time, essentially. It's like, I love the social aspect, and sort of, sort of speaks to my human design a bit. I'm a 2-4. So it's like that social, the 4 line in me is like, yeah, where's the party? Come on, let's go to lunch and let's do this and let's do that. And then the 2's like, right, we're going home now. We're all, well, I'm going home. I don't know you, but I'm going home. So there's that balance with me. And what else? The other thing I've noticed is a very low energetic capacity for online community engagement.
Yeah.
So I started off my journey a lot in Facebook groups. And, I wasn't as aware as I am now of myself and my body and things like that. And I was just making myself do it. And I didn't even think I was making myself do it. I was just following suit. And, looking back, I had low level anxiety, like I was on all the time. It was like a schoolyard scenario for me. It's like, has anyone commented? Has anyone I've got to keep up this charade. I've got to keep I've got to keep running the algorithmic hamster wheel, otherwise of commenting and blah blah blah, otherwise I'm going to slip through. So that was pretty stressful. And I think the other thing what I've noticed in terms of being an HSP, and who knows, it probably extends beyond that, but my nervous system, my body speaks so loudly to me, and it's the basis for a lot of my decisions, which we'll get to.
Yeah, definitely. I can relate to so much what you just said. Definitely. And also this, so what I would like to highlight, and what brings us also to the next question, is like this: I am like this high sensitive person, and now I try to fit into the online marketing game as all other peoples who are not maybe this high sensitive person. And for them, it maybe works just to fit in this given system. And you feel even on a physical reaction in your body that this is definitely not your way. And I experienced it, especially in the beginning of my business, exactly that. Like, where all these agencies where you have to make ads, you have to make it like this. And my whole body was like, no, that's too much. I don't want it like this. And I'm so happy to found somebody who is mentoring people exactly in this topic, and just shows her message so that all the people who are also high sensitive, or like it just feel in a way attracted to that they feel like I'm normal with that. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just a system that does not fit to me. Okay, perfect.
It's the rest.
It's the rest.
It's the rest. It's not us, it's the rest.
But even the rest, I mean, when it works, that's totally fine. But it's okay. That does not work for me, right? And this is like so cool. And that leads me to the next question. How did you experience in your business that this common marketing strategies did not work? I mean, you just outlined it a bit, but maybe you could go a little bit deeper. And how did you then find your own way of doing marketing and business?
Yeah. Well, I think it was just little by little by little, that I started questioning things. And interestingly, something that always stands out in my memory is it was back in 2017. I actually went to a World UFOlogy Congress, something or other thing. I was so bloody excited. So it was like this, like, I don't know, a couple of day UFO thing. I'd never been to one in Spain. And one of the speakers there, I was so impressed with her. She's actually President Eisenhower's, like, I don't know, granddaughter or something. You may have heard of her, Laura Eisenhower. She wasn't even speaking about UFOs or anything, but what she said, something got activated in me. And it was like, yes, right. My role here, because I already knew consciously in terms of relationships that what the world needs is to stop doing things out of obligation, right?
Yeah.
And or fear, like, basically, because that's all linked. And I was like, right, yeah, my role here is to for myself first, and then to help others stop doing all this stuff out of fear that you won't make it, fear of missing out, fear of people won't like you if you do that or say that or have those boundaries, or blah blah blah. So I came back from that that event very activated, and I'd already made some changes in my business about not doing that anymore, not doing that. And I came back and it was almost like, oh, Danny, you haven't even begun stripping back yet. That's got to go. That's got to go. I'm like, really? Oh my God. And I was just like, oh, this is big. Like, I was so convicted. And it was like, part of me thought, what is going to happen to my business if I do this?
Yeah.
And then part of me is like, well, let's just see, because this is what you must do. Like I was willing to sacrifice, I guess, the gains that I'd made. You know, it was so important. So that's sort of a little snippet of where it all started.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one important point that you just mentioned here is the feeling of I lose the gains that I already made. Like I found a way that works. It's maybe not a way that I like, but it's a way that works. And this fear, I will ask you this in a second too, this fear of letting go something where I think it could work, for something that I'm unsure whether it works, but I know, like deep inside of me, I know that this is the way for me and it will work. And this is something so important, where I know that many people are struggling with that step. And also to listen to their own voice and to their own inner wisdom just to do it. And I found it absolutely impressive how you did it and how you manage your business in exactly that way. That leads me, sorry.
Well, I was just going to add one little bit to that story that might be important before we move on is, I was mentioning that I was very much involved in Facebook groups, right? And then my first step was to sort of like really like cull down. So I ended up only focusing on one group, and I actually did very well. I really did well. But it wasn't good for my nervous system. I was still wired, you know? And I came to this point where I'm like, I have to change. I have to step back. And so I started to focus more on my own like platforms in terms of like my own profiles. Like I started focusing more on my Facebook page at the time, that kind of thing. But then I took this extra step because I was like, right, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to not be in this Facebook group for a month. It was such a big deal. I thought my business would shrivel up and die. I have a mentor that I catch up with every so often, and I had a special session for this. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I wanted to be accountable to someone, and it was my way out, because even after 3 days of not doing what I normally did, I was just like, oh my God, I feel so different. There's no going back now.
Great. And sometimes it's just the process of letting go, like when we're holding on. Now the word does not come into my mind, but like a line or whatever, like you have it in your hands, and the moment where you let go, it hurts a tiny little bit because it was so deep in your hands. But when it's free, it feels so good. And thanks for sharing this. That's absolutely great. I remember that I had a very similar story with Facebook groups. I was in every Facebook group you could imagine, because I always had the thing like, oh my God, there is something that maybe there's an information that I need in that and that and that and that and that group. And there was the point where I just started like not in the group, just to be on my own mind and my own wisdom. And that was perfect. All these points lead us to a much more deeper question regarding your business strategies and how you do business. And you publish blog posts, and this is also the way where how I have found you and your work and your courses and so on. And in your blog articles, you have 2 blog articles dealing with your email list. And you said that you and I found that personally very impressive, that you remove this free submissions from your email list, and you only accept people in your email list that already bought something, or are clients of your courses or whatever. And that you also stopped freebies, which is in
Yeah.
in the normal online marketing world, where everybody says, have a freebie, have an email list, just make email marketing, whatever, in that way, is completely counterintuitive, that, and at the same time super intuitive for you and your personal being, and as you as a person. Could you just take us in the thoughts you had while doing that, and also to how you found the courage to do this? Because this is actually the same with the Facebook group. Like, I'm just doing this step now, like, not free submissions and whatever. Like, maybe you have some thoughts you can share with us.
Yeah, I really love this topic. So the first thing that happened was I stopped the freebies first, right? And the reason I stopped, or lead magnets, whatever freebies, I especially being in this Facebook group culture, it was like the culture was to have various offerings, various freebies. So it was like I was always like creating these different freebies, you know. And I really love looking at my own data, you know. And what I noticed over time is that the quicker someone got on my list. So, for example, if I had a particular freebie and it just went, whoa, like 50 people joined my list today from that thing that I shared in a Facebook group. That's freaking amazing. That's a great opt-in, you know. But then I would find that those ones that people got onto very quickly, and the same happened with online summits that I was invited to speak to. That's where I got the most unsubscribes.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it had nothing to do with my content. I didn't think of it in terms like that, because I could see in most cases the content wasn't even accessed, right? So it wasn't to do with the quality there. I was just like, really? These people did not know me from a bar of soap, right? But I had a goodie. I had a goodie that they were like, oh, I need that. So they wanted my goodie, but they didn't actually want me, or not yet, because they didn't know me, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, and I noticed from my own experiences of signing up for things, I would see someone's name turn up and I go, who the hell is that?
Yeah.
You know, and like, bam, or, you know, whatever, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is what happens. Like, in a lot of my decisions are informed by my own behavior, what I see myself do. And I could just picture people going, who the hell is Danielle Gardner?
Yeah.
You know, and it didn't feel good for me also to be writing to people who were thinking that if they just got on my list too quickly. So I'm like, you know what? I know they say get people on your list quickly and then nurture your list. I'm like, no. Nurture people before they get on your list, before they do anything, so that they make a real conscious choice to hear from me, to invite me into their inbox, so that they can look and go, it's Danny. I wonder what she's got to say. That felt so much better to me.
Yeah.
So wiped all that out, but I went next level with it, right? Not only did I not have a freebie and just say, do you want to join my newsletter, which was a bit radical for some, like, where's your freebie? No, I'm just going to ask them to join my newsletter. Then they had to fill out, there was a form that asked, like, how did you find out about me? You know, a couple of questions.
Yeah.
And so that felt really audacious and bold and stuff like that. But oh my God, it was so helpful for my business and my messaging. And because that form automated into like a Google sheet that I could just refer to at any time, especially when I was writing offers and things like that. And of course, some people couldn't be bothered. Fine. They weren't ready for me yet. You know, that I was asking too much of them, right?
Yeah.
So so that went on for like a couple of years. And then the reason I made the next change was essentially, it kind of falls under this category, is heading of the wisdom of irritation, which is a little chapter in my tiny book. And because I could see why people were signing up to my list, because they had to tell me, some of the responses were irritating me, quite frankly. And it was mainly around human design. A lot of people were finding me through human design, or human design generators were, and why they were joining my list, because they wanted my like tips and whatever about human design. And I'm like, I ain't giving them. And that's not even what I'm promising. And if you want that, you can buy my course. That's what I was thinking. Like, you know, so this kept when it came up, I would feel irritated, and then I would sort of try and go, you can rise above this, Danny. Don't let this bother you. You're bigger than this, rise above. Positive self-talk myself into not worrying about it. But then it would like come up again another month later. And like, so it just kept coming up. And then there was this one day where I sat down with my husband. I said, can you just hear me out about something? I think I need a sounding board. And I said, this thing's happening. Da, 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 da. And he had an experience to share from someone that he had been involved with in terms of marketing. And just as a result of that conversation, I was like, yeah, like I'm taking the whole thing away. You somehow I didn't quite know what I was going to do, but I'm like, you can't even join my list unless you're a client now. And again, that felt super bold, super audacious, but I remember going over to my laptop, changing that little thing down in the header to say, look, it just said, I think it roughly says the same thing now. If you're looking for my newsletter, become a student or something like that, something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember pressing publish, and the feeling I had in that moment of pressing publish, I was like, oh my God. So I felt good in my body. Mentally, I was like, I'm not sure if this is a good idea. I'm not sure if this is a good business idea.
Yeah.
But that didn't matter. My body overrides everything now. Like if my body's saying that this is true, then I just follow that.
Yeah.
And what happened then was very unexpected. But basically, that one decision tripled my course sales within first they doubled the next month, and then they tripled, and then they stayed at a pretty high level. Because what happened is take away the opportunity to just get something free or even join my list for free. And they're like, I want to do something. Okay, I'll buy the course. Great. That's what you need. That's what's going to serve you best.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And this is what it would have been my next question. Like, could you just tell us a bit about your results? Because this is what I find so great and interesting at the same time, because you followed your heart, or let's say your body, your intuition, your heart, what feels really good for you, and you immediately got like the answer in the results, like double and triple and whatever. Because of course, and when you do it that way, you can even you can provide much more specific information and offerings, and you know who's in your list. And I really love that. I really love that sort of stories. Thanks for sharing, and also thanks for sharing it in your blog. That's absolutely phenomenal.
But
yeah.
I want to speak to the courage bit though, because you said, how did you get the courage?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? Courage had nothing to freaking do with it.
Okay.
Because it was my body.
Yeah.
My body kept going. It was that. It was like I had to do it,
Yeah.
So I didn't have to build up really. I mean, okay, it had been bothering me for a while, but I guess part of that time I wasn't really conscious of it bothering me so much,
Yeah.
But now, especially after that event, that's what really heightened this understanding of the wisdom of irritation. If something is irritating you, whether it be a client interaction, a way that you're delivering, a way, whatever, and it may only need to happen once, but like that's a call to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have to suck it up. We don't have to rise above it. It just means it's not aligned in some way. It just needs to be tweaked somehow.
Yeah. That's so cool. And I love how you develop this trust in your body and in your feelings, and just to do it. I developed a course which was called Money Manifestation. The other way around, Body Manifestation. And it's exactly about that. Like, listen to it. And what I like the most about this topic, the most interesting thing about this topic, is how easy it is. I mean, you get immediately a reaction in your body, and you immediately know what's the next step. And I really love how nature gave us actually such an easy tool to just navigate us through life. And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful how you do this and how you teach it.
And I think because people will wonder, but how can you trust that? How can
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
And it's like, I just think trust gets built over time, just
Yeah.
through small wins,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And then the wins get bigger because the kind of the risks get bigger, or
Yeah.
like the actions you make are just feel more risky somehow
Yeah.
because they're more contrary or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
But it happens over time. You just got to start with something. You know?
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Thank you for sharing this. I just want to dive a little bit deeper into the point of making things easy. This was actually one of the things that, or the points that or that lead me to your blog posts, especially for projectors. So
Mm-hmm.
the way I found you was a blog post about projectors and how projectors should do business. I was absolutely curious as for this topic because I'm not an expert or have deeper knowledge about human design, but I have many clients who are experts. So I was just like thinking about what is my human design and how could I do this? This is an interesting topic. Let's Google it. And I found myself very much in this blog post like, yes, this is how it could work. And I immediately made the decision to buy a course of you, which is called no, I have to The Art of Being Invited, which is a strategy for projectors, like waiting for the invitation and then react on it and decide whether it's a real invitation or not. And I mean, we could get deeper here, but long story short, you showed me in that course how my personal human design strategy makes my life easier and makes my business so much easier. And I really loved it. And I would love to have some thoughts of you. How did your personal human design strategy help you in your business? And what would you recommend a person who has maybe no knowledge about human design or has already knowledge about human design to use the strategy in their own business?
Yeah. Okay. Well, when I first discovered human design was through a business coach, and I was somewhat interested, but I remember not taking it so seriously, you know. Um, and then one day, I don't know what the thought process was, but I was just like, I felt like, I've got these offers that have just gone really well. Like they've just sold like really unexpectedly well. And then I've had these other ones that they went nowhere. Like couldn't get anyone to buy it. And I'm like, what was going on there? So I sat down and just sort of analyzed and reverse engineered them. So it was like, okay, so this one here that went well, where did that come from? Oh, there. Oh, well, what was before that? That. What was before that? That. And so I kept doing that with all the offerings. And then it just sort of dawned on me after I did a number of them. I'm like, oh my God, I was following this strategy of responding, as a generator.
Yeah.
I didn't know it. And certainly at that time, because this was like in 2000, a lot of things happened in 2017 for me. But this was before, was it that? Yeah, it was 17. It was certainly before many people were talking about it in a business sense at all, really,
Mhm.
So, the best you could get by going to have a body graph chart reading was, hey, you got to respond, and people were like, well, what does that mean? You know, but because I reverse engineered, I came up with actual strategies. And it's like, right, right, right. So I then documented these approaches and strategies and like I guess a sequence of events, and started to do that more consciously. And then I started to get the same results. So then that was pretty exciting for me. And then I started to share that, just here and there with like communities I was in and whatnot. And then I started getting people saying, well, I want to hear more about this. Like I just found out I'm a generator, or, all that kind of stuff. So I ended up doing a workshop, and then that became a tiny course and things like that. So in terms of what's been the most helpful and what I recommend for others is, well, first of all, the strategy, right? Um, each type has their strategy. And this is just the most important thing to really understand and really embody to begin with. A lot of people, especially if they've got a 1 in their profile, do you have a?
Yes.
Yeah.
1,
So you
3.
may, yeah, okay. So the ones often want to have, like, they want to deep dive into all the channels and the things and the blah blah blah. But I just knew that there wasn't a lot of point in that, because I'm just very practical. I was told from the beginning the strategy is everything, and I really understood if I couldn't get that, the rest of it didn't even matter. So what I realized straight away, and this is similar to projectors, because what I realized straight away was, oh my God, all I've ever done in my life is initiate.
Yeah.
Initiate. And I understood the gravity of this. I'm like, how on earth am I ever going to break this pattern?
Yeah.
I just, anyway, a couple of questions came to mind. One initially. So that became the question I started asking myself every day. And then another one that ended up with like 3 questions, So what that did for me is it changed how I created offers, what offers I created, and it changed the take-up rate. Because when you're actually working with your strategy, you're working within human design, and it's you're sort of, I see it like as your neighborhood of the human network. And it's when you recognize what's going on around you and the signals and the green lights, as I call them, then you create it in response. It gets picked up and distributed through the network, human network. And so it kind of reaches people more easily.
Yeah.
So that makes a big difference. The other thing, once you've got a handle of that, I mean, I guess at the same time of that is your inner authority, your decision-making process. And for me, as a generator with sacral inner authority, it's actually very straightforward in a way. It's just sort of like the truth in the moment's always there. I think one of the most trickiest ones is the emotional inner authority. It's just like, understanding that you got to, wait and get all the perspectives. But I started to really know what my sacral response was like, and it wasn't really and like we get told. That can happen in conversation, but as an entrepreneur working on my own, basically, I'm not there going, So I started noticing other sounds that I would make. And I was like, oh. So one of them is what I call the sacral ooh. So I'd be like reading something and I'd go, it just come out of my mouth. And that's like a real sacral yes.
Yeah.
So that is like the compass, to sort of yes, that, no, yeah, all that kind of stuff. And then certainly the profile numbers, that would be the next most important thing I'd recommend for people. So we've talked a bit about, like, I'm a 2-4, you're the 1 3, yeah. When I looked into that, this really helped me. First of all, sort of adjust my marketing strategy, because with the 4 line, it's like you're not really designed to be like reaching out to strangers. And at the time, I was on the cusp of investing a lot of money in a Facebook ads expert that was going to just go for cold audiences and all that kind of stuff. It's also very much helped me with the like offering design or program design. And then like service delivery being really helpful. And also it's helped with the naming of stuff as well. My understanding of the 2-4 has really helped me with the naming of things, and that sort of draws in the right vibe of person. So strategy, inner authority, profile numbers, great place to start.
Yeah, I think so too. That's so great. And there are so many information in that, and there's so much understanding in that. For me, it was like I told you in one of the sessions we had together, like that I just tried to see where all my invitations are and also missed invitations are. And I just saw a post of mine where I was like, oh my God, wow, that's like, maybe this is an invitation. And then I started to work with it, and it was like, bam, 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 everything it fall into place. And it was so beautiful. And this is so, again, so easy, of course, step by step to implement, because we have just weird conditioned, of course. Yeah. But once you have it, it makes life so easy. And also business so easy. And this is what I really love, and I also love about your courses and your work and all the coaching and mentoring that you provide. You just said a point, like, I was all the time initiating, and this is definitely not my strategy. And in the beginning of March, you shared a post about the approach of making things happen, and that this is for many human design types not the right thing, but we think we have to initiate and we have to make things happen and whatever. Could you maybe deep dive a little bit on that topic and how you experience that with yourself or with clients, or just the thoughts you have in mind about that?
Yeah, so that post was very much about the thing that tends to happen to most of us in business, where we have this idea of how something is going to play out. So let's take a new offering, for example, and it's like, oh my God, this offering, this is so amazing. People are going to love it. It's going to feel like this, like you just have this idea of what is going to happen. And then, you put it out there and it's like, nothing happens, or it doesn't happen in the time frame, or so it's this whole idea of putting an arbitrary like time frame or amount or something on a creation, which I have always done. And so this is why this is so meaningful to me, because it's like a pretty recent lesson for me, like in the last 12 months. And this is what like strangles creativity, throws us out of the game, because it's like we see that it's not happening. And so my mind goes, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Is it right? So it's not happening, because I had been used to things happening like when I wanted them to. So when I came across a period of time where things weren't happening, it's like, it was really, really upsetting and distressing for me. But when I eventually learned that, hold on a minute, if there was no like arbitrary deadline, time frame, amount, which of course we're all taught to have, smart goals and all that. But if it was just creation, if it was just, like that's what it would be. So a really good analogy that I came across to sort of describe this concept is that, if we imagine that we were given a seed for a century-old tree, and we we look at that seed and go, yeah, we're going to do great stuff together, and then plant the seed outside, cover it in dirt, and then the next morning look out, what's going on?
Yeah.
Where's the tree?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, not today. All right, fine. Tomorrow. What the hell's going on here? Where is the tree?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Because that tree is going to take time to grow, and like it's like some of our ideas, they're infants. And one of my offerings last year, it was so meaningful to me, and I did get people in it, but I just thought it was just going to be like, really, in hindsight, in its mature form from the get-go. And it's like this thing is going to grow and develop over years and become something great. And it's just this idea of having staying power. And so it's like this post came as a result of some conversations and my own experiences. It's like, well, what do you do in that moment where you notice this is happening? You wish you could think better. You wish you could feel better about it. You're just shooting yourself into like, making yourself feel worse because you can't be better, and think better. And it's like, well, what do you do then? And this is where, like, one of the things that I have said, I do say this in my book, I'm always talking about prioritizing outputs and minimizing inputs. So stop before the intake, like spend time on your own creations, because that's what's going to like move the needle in your business.
Yeah.
But in this situation, the real kind of goal for me is, oh my God, this is the moment for inputs, right? So have an input that you know is going to like work for you. I've got one myself. It's of another coach talking about her story. And it's just every time I listen to it, it really inspires me and it helps me go, it's okay, Danny, it's okay. Like, just because that happened, it doesn't actually mean anything at all, you know? So that was sort of the whole thing. It's like, this is probably going to happen. You've got to notice when it happens. And when you notice it happens, reach for that input, whether it be a book or a video or a podcast or something, and let it pull you up, you know, out of that downward spiral.
Yeah.
And stay in the game.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I love what you said, because we all know these moments, right? We all know these moments when we are looking out of the window and say, where the hell is the tree? And I just had the seed and there is no tree and I don't like it. We all, I mean, every entrepreneur here or then experienced that. And what was my strategy, and sometimes I still can recognize that, is that I try then to initiate what you just said, like oh, now we have to do something, like there should be a webinar or there should be more live or whatever, like, and initiating, as for me as a project, you know, is definitely not the strategy. Of course it did not work out. And I really like your approach there, and that we do not have to make the things happen. And it's like, super intuitive.
And one thing I did share in that post, which was like a little video, wasn't it? Is, you know, I looked back at all the times that I'd been in that point and gone, okay, it's not happening. Right, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna send this. I'm gonna, you know, whatever actions. And it's like never did that actually lead to anything.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, what that means is, okay, I'm probably going to feel that urge to do more, right? But I'm going to remember once again, never has that been the remedy, right? If anything, the remedy is to like lean back a bit more, like rest more, like, you know, stop initiating, you know, just chill out more, be more detached and lift your vibe, you know, don't give up hope. And if that thing doesn't work, it doesn't mean anything. Keep going, you know.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. You said just one important sentence that was like, just lean back and keep your vibration high. And one of that things, and this is also the last question for the interview today, is you limited your access for DMs on Instagram. You know that that your favorite way of communication, for example, is email. You just limited just the way of people can or have contact with you. And I think this is also a result of leaning back, I guess, like, or like it allows you to lean back more. Could you give us more insights about how you manage your message situation in your business?
Yeah. So first of all, I'll just share that why I limited the DMs. And again, it actually goes back to the wisdom of irritation. So what I was finding is that people would email or like message me and say stuff like, can you tell me about your offers? And I'd be like, yeah, go to my website and have a look at them, you know. You know, or I don't know, like they just ask me questions that they could have found themselves. Now, I get that some people that they're down with that stuff. They're like, yeah, I'm there. I'm gonna, you know, they're happy to be the help desk. I'm not that kind of person. I'm like, I'm all for self-responsibility, self-leadership. You know, I think if you're serious about this, you'll lift this little finger and you'll click onto my website. You won't need me to tell you, you know. And also, I don't like being in a position where I feel that I've got to say, oh, well, it's this and it's, you know, the convincing, all of that kind of stuff. It's like, that's what my sales page is for. Go and have a look at it. So I thought that was surely an irritation. And I thought, okay, this would not be happening if there was only access to email. It's just the culture around DM. It's like, I'm going to type 2 words and press send. and then I'm going to type another 2 words and press, it's like this very casual nature. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be online all the time. I want to minimize my screen time. So this is one of the things that, if you open yourself right up to it, you're spending a lot of time being a help desk and it doesn't necessarily lead anywhere. The other thing that I noticed is that people were commenting on my posts, and yes, in a beautiful way, but in a DM. So they were taking the conversation away from the post, whereas I want the conversation to be in the post and for people to, contribute to each other. I don't want this. No, like this is a group conversation here. If you want me one-on-one, yeah, here's my offerings, pay for some one-on-one time.
Yeah.
So those two things were like really like, I was just like, okay, how do I close this thing down a bit, And in truth, there's no way to close it down totally. But it's people who I do not follow cannot message me.
Yeah.
That's basically how it works. And what's happened is people have actually decided to work with me because I took that stance. They tried to message me.
Yeah.
And what it used to say, I don't think it says it now, because I know you attempted to contact me, and it says, I don't know, it used to say something like, Danielle Gardner doesn't accept message or whatever. It said something, but I think they've changed the message now. It's a little bit more obscure, so people, who knows how many people have tried to message me, and it's just like they're waiting for me to reply. But when I shared the reasons why I changed this, eventually people came in the comments and they said, Danny, that is exactly what I did. I tried to DM you. I couldn't get through. So I went to your website, I bought the thing, and it was really helpful. She's like, and furthermore, it made me want to work with you because it was like that boundary, like, yeah. So, I actually don't get a lot of messages now, like because it's email, like it really, it's, email's a little bit more formal, I guess. It has to be a bit more of a genuine thing. So I don't get so many, only from actual clients. So
Yeah. And that's beautiful. And I mean, and that's the interesting thing. I mean, when you are clear on this boundary that you have for you, this clearness actually is something that goes directly out to the person who tries to reach you. And if it's a person who really belongs to you, let's say it like this, he or she will find the way. I mean, it's like the same with me. I also tried to DM you on Insta because I just thought that's maybe the wave. Yeah. And then I thought like, there's nothing back. And I thought like, this is not the way she is. I mean, and then I just wrote you an email like, hey, I just tried to, and then I got the answer and I found it like, Jesus, that's so good, actually. that's such a good way of communication.
Yeah.
And I also found my way. And if you are clear for that, the people who belongs to you will find the way anyway. And this is what I love so much. Did you want to?
Yeah. Oh, I was only going to say the other thing is that I really didn't like if someone left you a message or a message, and especially if it was on the weekend. And of course, in curiosity, I want to see it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to reply to it. And now I know, oh, they've seen me open it, and
Yeah,
that type of thing. Yeah, there was something else, but I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Danny, thank you so much for sharing so much of your knowledge, of your wisdom, and all of your experiences with your way of doing marketing and business, of your knowledge about human design and the knowledge about how highly sensitive persons can do their business. And if somebody's now very interested in your work, what I could really imagine, what is now the best way to find you?
They can DM me. Just kidding. That's normally the response, right? Just DM me.
Yeah.
No, don't DM me. My website, I'm sure you'll put the link somewhere, but it's dannygardner.com. On Instagram, that's sort of my main platform. I'm the Quiet Marketer. And they're basically the two places. Yeah.
Great. We also put, of course, your website in the show notes, so you can just click on it and find all information, blog posts, tiny courses, all your offerings on the website. And Danny, I just have to say thank you for this beautiful interview. That was absolutely awesome. And thank you for your time.
You're welcome. It was really enjoyable talking to you, so thank you.
Thank you. Du Liebe, das war die aktuellste Folge im Money Business and the Universe Podcast. Ich freue mich riesig, dass du hier wieder eingeschaltet hast. Freue mich auf dich nächste Woche, wenn es eine neue Episode gibt hier im Podcast. Und wenn du gerne mit mir zusammenarbeiten möchtest, dann findest du alle Links mit Kontaktdaten und wichtigen Informationen hier in den Shownotes. Mir bleibt jetzt, wie am Ende einer jeden Podcast-Folge, nur noch zu sagen, egal an welchem Projekt du gerade dran bist, bleib unbedingt dran und ich wünsche dir unendlich viel Erfolg dabei. Alles Liebe zu dir, deine Mareike.